Hi there. In heaven, how is it that soul can create the consciousness of heaven? Because I think a recreation is necessary in order for the non-soul conscious mind, as it might be put, to really make head and tail of what the desire of the soul, which is to return to heaven, really wants. I mean, why is it such a big deal? Asks the normal consciousness of the soul. And of course, there is an error in translation. It's difficult to translate information from the soul to our conscious mind and back again. There must need to be some kind of interface between the two systems, or the two algorithms, or the two processing units, to put it in computer terms. And of course, as an aside, I was just thinking that if heaven or the transcendental realm is state A or condition A, and our state is condition B, it must be that there is a small b, which is a reflection of the state of A. So that must be BBA, and then that's so you need something within B that reflects A and is then stimulated by the avatar or by the messenger from state A to state B. Anyway, never mind about that. The point is that you need two things. You need you need three things. You need your transcendental God. You need your avatar from the transcendental God who comes down to this world, and that's Jesus. And then you need the soul, which recognizes the avatar and recognizes what the avatar is trying to say and trying to talk to the whole consciousness of the mind about. Most of the consciousness of the mind doesn't really understand what is being said, even because the conscious part of the mind is dualistic and the soul part of the mind is non-dualistic. So basically, it is a problem of interface. It is a problem of translation. How do you translate the language of non-dualism and transcendence into the language of dualism and immanence? And that's always been a philosophical problem, really, for Gnosticism, which they basically sidestep by saying, there's no philosophical answer to this. This is just an intuitive answer exists. But I don't know about that. I was thinking deeply about this, and I thought that maybe the answer lies in vision, because I am dedicated to the vision of the Holy Grail. And it seems to me that the vision of the Holy Grail represents an interface between the transcendental language and the language of the demiurge, the worlds of the demiurge on the other. And so you've got your vision of the Holy Grail on one hand, but you've also got other ways that other parts of this interface, if you like. So you have your interface here between transcendental and immanent, between this world and the other and the next world, and you need this interface because you need to transfer data from soul to the rest of the human consciousness through introspection, through meditation, and we've discussed the reasons why that might be, although it's not very clear why. You might have to have this translation or this conversation, really, between the transcendental part of your consciousness and the non-transcendental part of your consciousness. Why does there have to be an exchange of information? But apparently there does. And so one way is, of course, is to focus your conscious mind on the Holy Grail in its many different forms, and that creates an interface. Another way is to close your eyes and to focus your attention on the backs of your eyelids which you will initially notice, of course, a sort of like a dark red, which of course is you're seeing the blood, the capillaries of your eyelid. Basically, you're seeing light penetrating your eyelid, and it sort of gives this sort of dark red hue. But onto this screen, this dark red screen, you can project, or images are projected. Images come into your mind and are projected onto this screen. Um, and that's very important that you practice doing this, and that you practice the following attitudinal uh, evolution, as it were, to what you are seeing. Because on one hand, you basically have to notice the changes that occur in images. And yesterday I was very interesting. I was concentrating I was looking at the table, garden table and chair. First of all, there were two objects, and I knew what they were: a chair and a table. And then suddenly, it seemed to me that the image changed. It kind of morphed into an image, and the two objects appeared to fuse together. And I saw them with an artist's eye. I mean, I'm no artist, but I sort of have an eye for art, even though I don't have the execution of my hand to create what I want to see. But I sort of saw these two objects kind of fusing together and creating a third object. And it then occurred to me that, when you look at reality, you can actually recreate it with your imagination. With your mind's eye, you can suddenly see things in a different way, and things that were apart fuse together, and things that were fused together fly apart, and all manner of combinations of objects can occur, and you also can see things in a different perspective as well. Plus, there's also this kind of mysterious shadow part behind every object, which you can't see, and yet you project your imagination and create this intriguing, alluring mystery of something that you cannot see, but which exists behind the object that you can see, or the part of the object that you can see. So you see the light side of the moon, and there's a dark side of the moon, and on the dark side of the moon, you can put anything in your imagination. And I sort of see this ability, this artistic eye, that somebody called Austin Spare talks about as well. He says that you look at something and it transforms itself into something else. You look at a common object, could be anything, and it becomes something else. If you look at it, sort of, you relax your eyes, and you just relax and breathe, and kind of aware of your breath, and you can see objects changing in front of you. I know some people say, well, I can do that on acid. And indeed you can, but you have no control over that process. Whereas this, you have a nice, gentle control over it. And if things, if images start to get out of hand, you can close the system down. Whereas, of course, if you're on acid, you can't. And that's horrific. Because, but on the other hand, if you just let objects flow into each other, and they change shape, and you see common objects becoming uncommon objects, this is part of the process, I think, whereby the interface between reality and imagination begins to break down. And I think this is an important process to cultivate in your mind, preferably without drugs. In fact, very strongly suggested without drugs, really, because that, as I say, that's uncontrolled. Whereas you want to be able to control your ability to see the world differently, to see the world artistically, as it were. And this is something that you can actually sort of try to cultivate in your mind. And the other interface, well, this is quite interesting. I found a picture of myself as a baby. I think I must be about 18 months old, and I'm holding this blue dragon, which I remember vaguely. And I'm just holding this blue dragon, and I'm looking at it, I'm sort of sitting up, I got a perfectly straight yogic back, and of course, and soft bent legs. It's a brilliant picture to look. This is how you're supposed to do yoga postures. With complete relaxation, and your body is totally flexible, which it is at 18 months old. But I'm looking at this blue dragon thing, and I kind of projected my imagination back to the baby. I'm looking at this object, and the thing about this object, it's just there, okay? And at 18 months, I'm not asking any questions about it. I may be saying, what is this? Okay. But I don't come to any conclusion as I turn it round and round my fingers. I explore the object with my fingers, my touch, and I explore it with my eyesight. That was in the days when I could actually see properly, presumably. And I could, and this, but I don't ask any questions. I don't say, is this object going to cause me pain? Does this object remind me of past pain? Is this object going to give me pleasure? How much is this object worth if I sell it on eBay? All these sort of questions that we ask of objects, they're just simply not there in an 18-month baby. It just has innocence. It's just looking at this object, and this object has a sort of innocence about it. You're not asking any questions about it. You're just observing what is, basically, without judgment, without question, without being repulsed by it or attracted to it in any way. I suppose there's an attachment to the object in the sense of as a sort of relationship, a complex relationship, even within an 18-month-old baby, because obviously you might want the object, and if someone took the object away from you, you'd cry. So there's a kind of already a feeling, I think, of possession, but there's also mixed up with a total innocence, and you don't ask any questions. You just accept what there is, so I projected my imagination onto this 18-month-old baby that is actually me in the photograph. And I don't ask any questions. I'm just observing the photograph as it is, and it is what it is. And the object that the baby is holding is what it is. And I think this sort of innocent, unquestioning observation of life as it is sort of is conflated with the ability to see everything changing at the same time, objects changing, especially when you revolve them and you see a different perspective of that object, and you see objects coming together in different ways and flying apart in different ways, and you combine that with that sort of ability to look at everything through an artistic eye, and then you look at and you look at the you I suppose I use the word conjure. You conjure up the vision of the Holy Grail on the backs of your eyelids, and again this image, you just observe this image unquestioningly, and you don't ask what it means, and if it changes, you let it change, and if it disappears, you let it disappear and let it reappear and things like that. And you in this way, by these four different means, you bring these four different methods together to create this interface between the language of transcendence and the language of the worlds of the demiurge, the worlds of which we are normally sensible. And of course, we are culturally, obviously we see things in a cultural way. I remember my parents, because I was born in Africa, and we had this African servant, and she'd never seen the sea. So She used to take down the pictures and dust the frames. And she always used to put this one picture back upside down, and it was a painting of the sea under the sky, and she didn't distinguish between sky and sea. So she randomly put the picture back upside down. A very curious incident, because of course obviously she was not culturally conditioned to see the sea, because she'd never seen the sea, because Zimbabwe is a landlocked country, and if you never travel, which people didn't in those days because they were too poor, Africans didn't travel. Then basically she would never see the sea. I mean, it's quite odd because she'd never even seen Lake Macawane. I don't know what it's called now in African, but it used to be called Lake Macawane, which is a huge lake, and she'd never seen the lake either. So she had no idea of a large body of water. To her, it was just simply sky and water. And she just wasn't she didn't understand what she was seeing in this painting, you see. And you get a lot of this sort of thing where people don't see something because they're not culturally conditioned to see it, you see. And that's a terribly interesting thing. So really, she had a sort of innocence about her, like an 18 months old baby almost. But she has an unquestioning she just thought, well, it is as it is, and it doesn't matter whether I put the sea on the top or the sky on the bottom. And of course, many modern artists would agree with that. It doesn't actually matter when you're painting. You can really put the sea and the sky anywhere you want. You could put the sea on the left and the sky on the right. You wouldn't have. Why should it be top and bottom? That's very prosaic of you. Basically, you're thinking in a cliched sort of way there, aren't you? And art is about destroying all cliches. It's about just deconstructing cliches, deconstructing the way you've been taught to say things and see things and paint things and draw things and sculpt things and even the way you create music. We're all taught what music is, but we're not allowed to actually explore what music actually is. According to how we would like it to be, according to our imaginations, according to our minds that are free from cultural conditioning. And why can't we use artistic forms from other cultures and blend them all together to make our own interpretation of world culture, world music for that matter. And of course, this has all been done famously by lots of different music composers. And some of them have even come up with complete new scales that are neither Eastern or Western scales, which is great. But this freedom that you're creating, this freedom of seeing things and your freedom of expression, freedom to bring objects together and see them in a different way. All this, I think, is a sort of signposting the kind of freedom that you can expect when you reach the transcendental realm of the true God. And in fact, all the rest of it, all our culture and our childhood conditioning and the rules that we are governed by, all this, and we are judged by as well. We're judged by certain criteria according to peers and siblings and parents and guardians and society. And basically, we enter into a realm of freedom from all this. And we need to create little packets of this freedom within our artistic studios. But you don't even have to be an artist. You can simply do this through visualization. You can create anything with your mind. And obviously an artist can then take these pictures and place them onto some sort of medium or create music out of them, but you don't have to. You don't have to be an artist, right? You can just go there yourself. And I'm reminded of someone who's saying about, had a very good sense of rhythm. And I said, why didn't you become a drummer? And she said, no, I wanted to become a dancer because it's easier to create rhythm with your whole body than it is to project rhythm onto a set of drums. And I can relate to that, actually. It is easier, really, to do that. And some people have created musical instruments around the body so that you can actually move your body around, and both pitch and timbre and rhythm of the music changes with your bodily movements. And that people have found that's brilliant, a brilliant way of making music without having to actually learn a musical instrument, as you say, which is sort of one step removed from your artistic desire, so to speak. But anyway, I think that I would encourage people really to practice visualization and practice looking at objects as they are, and not really questioning what you're seeing. And basically also going to an art gallery and looking at some of this modernist art, and also not really questioning what you're seeing there either. And just creating, I don't know, creating more art, as it were, on top of the art that you're already observing. So you're going to see a picture, and basically you're going to fill in the gaps with your imagination. And that's important to cultivate. It's important to cultivate all this because you're really creating the ability of your soul to talk to your conscious, conditioned mind. And this is going to give you, or give you instances of spiritual freedom, and connect you to the realm of spiritual freedom, which awaits you after death, when, of course, all your cultural conditioning, all your questions, will go unanswered. I mean, it'll all go, and everything that you were will be gone. And you're going to have to see the world again through the eyes of an 18-month-old child. But at the same time, there's going to be also recognizable objects like the chalice, the Grail of the Holy Grail, and this again will connect you to the myths that you learnt about and connected to when you were being culturally conditioned by society. And there are sort of various objects and shapes which are universal shapes, which have always meant something to human beings for thousands and thousands of years. And these are worth probably preserving, and preserving and creating a memory of, so that when you die, you have something to connect to. You have something that will connect you to where you were before, and it will act as a bridge between where you were before and where you're going to end up, you see. So that's my little rant on the importance of visualization, and looking at the world through an artistic eye, even though you don't have to be an artist to do that. Because artists just simply execute what they see onto some medium, but you don't have to do that. You can just see the world passively through an artistic eye without bothering to execute what you see onto any medium, or onto music, if that you don't want to do that. So everybody can learn to do this, visualizing and looking at the world through the eyes of a baby, and enjoying and savoring the spiritual freedom which you will enjoy in full when your soul reaches God awareness, or God connection, or God relationship.